back and apply this to the data book example that I had. So remember how I said actuaries like to keep people out using jargon and really complex terminology? Well, here's a perfect example of it. They came up with this incredibly intuitive concept of utilization per 1,000 members. What? I'm sorry? What does utilization per 1,000 members mean? Let me give you an example. Let's say that there's 20 people on this side of the room and there's 25 people on this side of the room. If the 20 people on this side of the room have less utilization than the 25 on that side of the room, does that mean these 20 are less risky? No, not necessarily. In fact, they could be more risky. You have to standardize the data upon which you're basing your risk analysis. And so what actuaries did was they said, if I lined up 1,000 people and I capture all of their utilization over the course of a year, that's what the risk of that population would be. So I can standardize your 20 people's utilization and compare it to your 25 if I express both of your utilization figures on a utilization per 1,000 basis. Okay? So let's use an intuitive service to try to figure this out. So hospital visits. I'm going to define it on a day basis, not admits. I can do either, but I'll tell you why it's important that you know how it's being defined. So, hospital days per 1,000. If every one of my group of individuals, this 20, incurs 5 hospital days per 1,000, what's my utilization per 1,000 figure going to be in the model? And this is actually, it's not intuitive. It's 5,000 because it's 5,000 per 1,000, right? Everybody has, on average, 5. Okay, so bear with me. It's an annual figure. It's a utilization per 1,000. If this side of the room has 5,000 per 1,000 and this side of the room has 4,000 per 1,000, which side of the room from an actuary's perspective, strictly speaking, is more risky from a utilization perspective? This side, right? And if I add one more person and the number stays at 5,000, which side is more risky? Right? You see how it's a standardized way of doing risk. Now, if I add one more person and it goes from 5,000 to 10,000, oh my goodness, that person was risky. Right? That's why you use these standardized figures. So you have utilization per 1,000. So for hospital inpatient, it's done on a day's basis. Then you go to the unit cost. So if the utilization is on a days per 1,000, what does the cost figure have to be on? Cost per day, right? It's cost per incident. Now, what would happen if I used a cost per admit and a utilization on a per day basis? You can't do that, right? Never the twain shall meet. They don't make any sense. Well, why am I bringing this example up? It doesn't make any sense. It's not applicable to family care. How many of you know that the data used to develop the rates doesn't mix hourly units of service with minutes units of service with visits units of service? How many of you can tell me definitively that you've looked in the rate setting methodology and you can say, yeah, they parse everything out perfectly. They don't ever mix utilization and unit cost in terms that are not consistent? How many of you, when you're doing billings, use a code that you know is an hour-based, but you're not necessarily providing an hour-based service, but it's just because that's the way the state told you to bill it? It's a given, right? There's disconnects.